think about that later on. Good morning, everyone. Joe and Kelin here at Youngstown's Talk Channel, Youngstown Studio, downtown Youngstown. Let me get you in frame. Make you a little bit bigger.
No,
Huge
back it up.
Amazonian
Make it smaller, and then I
bigger.
look
Dainty.
more petite. Yes.
All right.
Make
Good
me
morning,
smaller.
everyone. Wait, do we have audio? Yeah, we're good.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
All right. So anyway,
Bueller.
have you ever been dragged by the internet? By the way, like truly dragged.
I was like, I feel like we are every day, most days since starting this show.
I said truly dragged. Truly dragged. Okay, think of just like primitive times back in, Crusades, Dark Ages, all of that. And the whole town sees the opportunity to take a condemned person. And they don't have the brain, but they're like, hey, everybody's dragging this person. And you just get the collection of the mob that just participates in the drag. That kind of drag. I was dragged once.
I don't think I have been.
Okay.
What were you dragged about?
So this was when student loans were, President Biden was circulating the fact that they were going to, give taxpayer money to
Forgive loans.
Indoctrinated academic kids who took loans out but weren't smart enough to know how to use them, right? And so in the debate, I'm just having that logic and that reason that we shouldn't be giving anybody money. I mean, colleges get to keep it, and this is just a way of laundering money through academia, right? So my position is, if they're so bad, then stop making them. Don't make any more today. But as long as you issue today's, 20 years from now, somebody's be like, forgive mine. So why would you author and issue a loan today that you're going to be like, oh, this is predatory? Why would you do it today? So that's my whole argument. But anyway, at the time in 2020, during COVID, our companies took PPP money. Right. And then which was forgiven at the end of the PPP money. Now, I can explain how the system works, but to the people without brains out there, right, they think that I got money and then the government just forgave that money. I can explain it all day. Do you understand why it wasn't like free money for businesses?
Because people paid into it?
No. Do you remember, how the system worked?
I'm trying to remember. PPP. It was like, wasn't that what they gave businesses for like payroll? And
so during COVID, we were shut down for 4 months where our techs couldn't go in the field, right? And so they would have no paychecks and have to go on state unemployment. So the federal government they said, here, we're going to fill in your payroll using federal money. You continue to send your techs a paycheck like they normally would. And that way, those people don't overrun the unemployment system, because you just basically have massive amounts of people going to unemployment so they can continue getting checks. So they protected the protected the states.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it would be disruptive of business, because once you lay somebody off, what are the chances that they're going to come back under your employment once that happens? So it's going to be a big disruption. So they gave us money. It went right into our accounts and right into normal payroll. So I wasn't able to bill my people's time. So it wasn't, I could collect on their time. They were at home, right? Maybe doing some trainings, maybe, I don't know, mailing it in, but they didn't do anything for that period of time, but they still received the regular paycheck. But the internet mob decided that was free money. That was money that I could go out on vacations.
You owe me that money.
Dinner, and it was forgiven. Now, reason with them, cool, but they gang tackled me. They dragged me, doxed me, put my information out there. And I had people coming to this studio in my offices because they were so mad that I was opposed to student loans being forgiven, but my PPP vacation money was forgiven. That was it.
First of all, I thought they weren't allowed out of their houses. How are they coming to the studio? We were supposed to be sheltering in place.
These were just dummies that weren't doing anything else. And they were so mad that, I didn't want their student loan debt to be forgiven.
Oh, those people were.
Yeah, but they doxed me. So it basically, all of my information and where my companies were and everything about me was now on the internet. And it was, people were calling, customers harassing. They didn't do any physical damage, but I felt it. Like, I felt being dragged and gang tackled like that. And it was a scary proposition.
People need to find something productive to do with their lives. Do you think anybody that had a productive life, a job, a family, a place to go every day, bills to pay, are in any way a part of that group that was dragging you and showing up?
But I look out in society and they have like a no kings rally, right?
Yeah.
No, sacrificing what could be productive time for something that you're completely passionate and pissed off about, and you sacrifice an entire day to have no utility whatsoever. Those things do nothing. So you were surrounded by people who have no other religion to serve, so they serve this type of religion.
Yeah. Unfortunately, anytime I've experienced any sort of like harsh pushback, and I'm not talking about pushback that is like, hey, I see something differently. Let's talk about this. And let's have a conversation as to why I disagree with you. I'm talking about the over the top, unreasonable pushback is usually by those that don't even really have a dog in the fight. Like, what are you even talking about?
But those
don't
are
even
tame.
need this.
Like I'm talking about ones where they're actively trying to hurt and destroy you. They have targeted you
them
to destroy.
Yeah, because I feel like people that have a life, and by that I mean they have responsibilities to worry about. If they don't, they have all the time in the world to go try to like ruin someone's life and protest for something ridiculous. And I'm going to take time out of my day to show up here and tell you why I disagree with you. If you had something more productive to do, maybe you wouldn't do that.
But they're not. And that's the worsening into the cesspool of what our society is, that bored people that don't have no purpose, they'll invent one in a destructive area. And that's what we're seeing. There are more people, right? We'll say 75% of people are in that bucket of totally useless, but mad or impassioned about something. And when you light that tinder, like, and you get those people motivated to do something, whether it be January 6th or no kings rallies, all it is takes one little match, and you're going to see all the dumb people have all the power. It's just a reality.
Yeah. I mean, and even things on Facebook, if I posted and somebody disagrees, you can tell the way they disagree. And usually if it's that super harsh name calling, you're stupid, laughing at your opinion, is most likely the people that are like, dude, don't even think that your opinion matters here when you have no idea.
So that brings me to Brandon Kovacs, my buddy. Do you know this whole saga?
So I know a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with this person. I guess was running for something.
Okay.
So I might need
Let me
filled
give
in
you the
a
whole
little.
backstory.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit of a trolly person on social media. I love bringing up conversations that have a little bit of spice to them. And
Spicy.
I have a couple of people who, no matter what I say, I know that I'm going to get a response from.
Yeah.
And I get paid for engagement. And so the more people that disagree with me and throw things at me and get really impassioned, the more money I make.
This is how the internet works.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have my favorites where I know I could say something and immediately they're going to get behind their keyboards and do it. Brandon was one of those. For years, it was just this real vanilla back and forth. He would say all the mean things to me. He would disagree with me. And it was really good exchanges. I mean, he wasn't complimentary to me. He didn't like me all that much, but he wasn't mean. He wasn't destructive. He didn't try to hurt me. He just,
arguing in a mature way.
Maybe.
Okay.
So more mature than most.
Okay.
He was very intelligent. I had a lot of respect because he did come from a position of intelligence. So I had respect for that. But what he liked to do is he would like to minimize me. He would insult my intelligence, insult my reason, and insult my logic. And those are areas where I'm pretty secure in, right? I'm pretty secure in those areas.
Yeah.
And so they didn't affect me much because the things he was coming after me for, like everybody who knows me is rolling their eyes when he makes those kind of charges. And I didn't go to college. And that was his one big thing. He wanted to throw that at me. Well, like, you didn't even go to college kind of thing, thinking that was the arrow in his quiver that could really take me out.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I didn't go to college. You're right, dude. But it was his strategy was to undermine my intelligence. And anybody who's been around any of my content knows that there's a fair amount of that in anything that I post. But anyway, but he got about a year ago, he just went, something happened, maybe something in his life, maybe whatever, and he just went mean, like really mean. Now, my buddy Isaac here noticed this, and he took exception to the fact that when Brandon would say something that was just over the top mean, that I never really defended myself. I never needed to. It was just part of the game to me. But Isaac was like, no, I'm not tolerating that. And he would go after Brandon, and they would have little spats back and forth, right? And I forget what the first one was, but when Brandon got ensnarled in some kind of thing, and whether it be legal, financial, he was running allegedly, he was running a couple scams, right? Okay. And there were some people who would regularly talk in my ear, like, don't let him, don't let him talk to you like that. I got dirt on him. You could destroy him with that dirt. And I'm like, I'm not gonna go after him personally when it's just these public spats that we have. I won't go to that, to that level. And then something culminated, and I think it was back in February. There was one thing that he started running for political office, and Isaac went after him. And I don't recall why this thing went to a head, but it did. And Isaac and Luke really, gang tackled
online,
Mr. Brandon online. Yeah.
Okay.
And then somebody so let me paint the picture of what I think I know. And this is all allegedly, because I don't know what I don't know.
Allegedly.
This is what's being fed to me. And he was big. He says he owns like 40 companies, and he has thousands of employees. He runs a couple of websites in the insurance broker department, right? Okay. And I believe from what I read, there was a guy named George who entrusted Brandon with some money to do investments. And Brandon took that money, allegedly, and kind of like went on vacations and just luxury items and all this kind of spent the guy's investment money. And when George was like, hey, I need my investment money back, then Brandon was like, well, you don't have any more investment money. The investment money's gone. So George went to court and sued Brandon and won like a $1.4 million settlement from Brandon. And this was, I believe, back in like September or October of 2025. And at the same time, what was exposed that Brandon didn't make the donation, but he said he was going to donate to Mill Creek Parks like $250,000. I'm assuming it was George's money that he made it, but he never came through with the actual thing. So that was another thing that I learned throughout these people feeding, little birds on my shoulder, telling me information. So then I believe Brandon then filed a suit against George, who won that big thing for harassment and some other things. And the case got thrown out. So I believe George then got pissed, and he went along with criminal charges against Brandon. So 5 counts of fraud and money laundering and whatnot. And maybe 2 weeks ago, that case went to court he was indicted on that. And he went in for his booking and his mugshot. He paid his $10,000 bond so that he could stay out of prison. But this dude is like on his way to bad things happening, allegedly. Right?
Allegedly.
Now, every morning there is a new person that says, hey, that Brandon, he ripped me off too for whatever. So there are dozens of people who now see that blood is in the water for Brandon, and they are gang tackling him. They are jumping on. This dude is destroyed. And, I take no pleasure in watching a man that I hate I dislike being dragged like that. So little increments of being dragged, okay. But I'm getting a little uncomfortable watching this guy get dragged to this level, deserve it or not, right?
Yeah.
It makes me feel very uncomfortable. And Isaac talked me down a couple of weeks ago and said, I just want an apology. That's all. Give me an apology and it's gone, because he was really mean to me. And I think that's all it's going to take for me to move on. But every day I'm looking to see what next happens in the saga where one of my nemeses is getting blocks of, comeuppance to them.
This is a perfect where you should be posting, let's go, Brandon. What was that whole let's go, Brandon? Wasn't that the thing? Go. Oh, that would be perfect.
Give me some advice here. Should I take this off my radar and let the justice system do its thing and maybe take a little pleasure in the eventual outcome, but don't cheer. Don't like be on it. And don't keep collecting up more of the mob to feed into this.
Why? You said it makes you uncomfortable.
Yes.
To see, I guess, him getting what he deserves.
Well, basically what's happening now, if he got the damages and the punitive damages and the civil damages for George, he's made whole. Cool. He's taken out of the equation. He gets some indictments for what he's already done. 5. He's going to spend some time in prison for sure. The dude is ended. He's destroyed professionally. His life is, destroyed as well. Adding more to that, I don't think it satiates any kind of justice at this point. And since there's more, I'm wincing now knowing that if this was the beginning and it was bad, I don't want to even picture what in the end after all these other people jump in.
Kind of like, okay, there's you got what you deserved, and then there's, well, you're really getting it now.
Done, yeah.
And yeah, I feel like a good person would be like, we're human. I think to sort of get a little pleasure out of seeing like a nemesis get what they deserve is just human.
But I don't want to be that guy. I am that guy right now, but I don't want to be that guy.
But a lot of times good people too, to see them get excessive, you don't really take pleasure in that. Like I've been in situations where someone was a total douche to me. They deserved everything they got. But then once they did, it's like, now I almost want to have a little mercy for him.
Yeah. Okay. So in those primitive times, so somebody came along to your bread stand and they stole a piece of bread. You're like, that guy, I want justice. He stole from me. I feel I'm a victim here. Right. Mm-hmm. So you turn him in and they take him and it's like, he's going to get the stockade and I'm going to freaking love it. And then when it comes to punishment day, it wasn't the stockade. They decided to fillet the dude, right? Tear his skin off. And you're like, oh, wait. Well, hold up. I feel now bad because what I thought the justice was going to come down is way more magnified. And it seems a little excessive. And I was the origin of all of this shit going down. And now I feel almost responsible for a man being skinned. That's the way I kind of feel.
How would you feel? One situation I sort of relate to is, let's say you had this person unnecessarily mean to you. Mm-hmm. You didn't do anything to them, just unnecessarily mean. Maybe you've even reached out and helped them on occasion, and they still were unnecessarily ungrateful and mean. Mm-hmm. And you can tell, you see where this is going. They'll be back and they'll need you again. Mm-hmm. Where's it lie where you're like, I can't wait. I'm going to tell you to kick rocks. Or you're like, I just know I'm going to have to help again.
Well, I'm the worst person to talk about this because I'm a logical person and I put everything through the same filter when I do make decisions and not. So I've had family members who were in that same position. Mm-hmm. And the first time I was eager to help and there were stipulations and then the stipulations weren't followed and they sat down and very dramatic, almost like a pyramid scheme meeting. Right? They're like, I just want to know that I need an undersigner for a car, or I need to be lent $800 or something like that. And I put it through my like mechanical filter. And I was like, no, I already done that. I'm not your best target. I have to say no on this one. And then never talk to them again. And they're just gone forever. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's the math that I was in. The relationship was based on what I was willing to go and do for them. And once that benefit isn't there, then they're not there anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it where it wasn't even like a loan or anything. It was like, you're struggling. Here's a gift. It's a gift. Yep. You don't ever have to repay this. And then you find yourself doing that again. And then you're on the end of their hatred spewing anger for whatever reason. And you're like, okay, well, true colors have been shown. We're going to let it go.
Like you said, that's all human nature. That's how we behave. Like we look at things with their value. I do it authentically and honestly. Everyone else is pretending that they're not doing that. So when you walk up to a resource, you know what's in it for you. I'm calculating how to extract the most benefit without damaging, the source of it. I don't want to kill the plant or the tree. I want the fruit from the tree, but I got to keep it healthy enough so I can keep eating the fruit. Right.
Yeah.
And then there's nuclear people who are like, I'm going to go get the thing, and I don't care if I kill the goose. That was like mixed metaphors all over.
I was like, wait, goose?
Goose, yeah, the golden egg, that kind of thing. But it's all the same, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so like I enter that kind of philosophy even in debates like, education. Like there's a debate that sort of happened because teachers unions are garbage, right? But they're very powerful, and they make our mediocre school systems even more mediocre, or mediocre-er, right? Mediocre-er, right? And so there's a couple of states that have created alternative teachers unions, allowing teachers to get out of that teachers union because they're expensive. They don't do the bidding of every teacher, so they went to a separate union. Well, the main one teachers union is like, hold up, we're hemorrhaging here. We're losing membership, and we need our members in order to be a union that can get what we want at all times, right?
Yeah.
And this other threat means that if I have a choice and this is a better union and they align with more of my ideals, then I'm going to join this one and then sort of like split off of the main union. And then, one of the big things is having AI in teaching. There's a lot of schools that a teacher is being modeled, and you can do homeschooling, have a teacher that learns everything about you, knows where your capacities are, knows what you know, and then just teaches you the stuff, having you specifically in mind and delivering your curriculum. This is a huge threat to the regular teacher. And my wife is a teacher, so I take this kind of serious, how quickly my wife could be replaced by technology who can do it better and faster. And the teachers in the teachers unions, when you tell them what the problem is, that you're making a mediocre environment because you cannot back end the exceptional students, you have to play down to your least students, which deprives the exceptional ones of any kind of education while you're managing and warehousing children through a process. The teacher's going to say, but it's so hard. I have 24 kids. I can't pay attention to them all. And the AI's like, I can. Right. So how do you defend against that? If it's better than you, and your only reason why you can't do the job that you can do is because you got 24 different personalities that are forced at you, and the alternative is solving that problem, who's going to be left to push against the AI teaching and the AI curriculum? Why would you insist that a human being do it? There's only one mechanism that's pushing up against that, and that's the teachers unions.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to have to be groups of humans that say, I value humans and I'm not going to use this.
Yeah, and they get the product that's a human version, and the people who want the other one. But it's really the making one not an alternative is where the leverage of unions broke the marketplace when they picked their favorite one and made sure all of the competition died, is where the true evil is in unions. If they were like, hey, you know what? We're going to make a better union that is highly competitive, and you're going to choose me not because you have to. You're going to choose me because I give you something better than you have. So once you have two teachers unions, they're like, here's what we do, here's what we stand for, here's where your money goes, here's what we'll defend. And then another union pops up and says, hey, I don't like that one over there. And if you don't like that one over here, come over here. And that teachers union's got two choices: compete better, right? So they pick you, or kill the other teachers union. It's really your only two options. And you can see where this theme, kill the AI, kill the other teachers union, that kind of leverage and tyranny within our systems is the true evil.
How do you feel about things like tenure? Someone kind of receiving tenure. Now it's like, okay, well, you've been committed for so long and done this for so long that now.
Tenure's mathematics, but it's not mathematics as you're probably citing it.
What?
Yeah, so tenure is basically you have someone that's been in a position that's so long. Mm-hmm. It's mathematically evaluating what values equal someone being there that long. They have connections, they have wisdoms, they have history, and you assign a value to that. Well, if you have tenure, do you want the new person, right, that doesn't have those wisdoms, doesn't have those connections, doesn't have that intelligence, versus the old one, which carries all of those values? All right, so it's a standardization, a block of a generalization that says you probably have all of those things if you've been here. Well, mathematically, you have to challenge that and saying, what if the new guy coming in has equally valuable things like new strategies, new innovations in what they're going to teach. And maybe those are more valuable than the wisdoms of being there. And then you evaluate and say, is tenure worth X or is new blood worth Y? And then you compare those two and say, if tenure is the math that I'm citing, then it's a very valuable tool, because when I assign you tenure, it means you're wise, you have connections, and you have an intelligence that is valuable. Yeah. If I'm like, I'm giving you tenure and the only thing it means is I'm going to have trouble firing you, doesn't mean that you have the wisdoms to have the intelligence to have the other things. That's why I say, like, we've gotten lazy about that tag, and it's more about protecting mediocrity than it is of evolving and having a higher, standard.
Yeah, because I think it kind of depends on, can you trust that person who received tenure is still going to show up in the way they have been, or is it going to be like, whew, easy sailing now, I can slack off?
You would have to tell me, you would have to give me the math on it and how it's being used, and I have a feeling it's nowhere near what I just described.
Yeah, when I was watching that last week, we talked about the Jubilee YouTube video of the unhoused versus millionaires, and they were talking about their lives, and they were given a prompt that was, free housing will make it so that the people receiving it won't do anything to get out of their situation. Basically, like, should we give them free housing and say this is meant to be temporary till you get back on your feet, or do you think they'll just accept it and stay with it and not be motivated to do anything else? Why would I work? Why would I do anything?
Again. That's a theme today, human nature. I think teachers and the education system should work like the NFL draft. Right? Works really well. You're in a competitive space and you want the best absolute people on your team. And there's a finite amount of people that are good enough and lots of people who want to play. And if you want to fix salaries on teachers, where there are some really good teachers that are stuck in school districts that are terrible, let the draft happen where the worst schools get first crack at the draft to pull in talent and be willing to pay for them. And then what you end up doing is, like, in putting an NFL roster, you do have things like tendering contracts. You have people that are towards the end of their deal, but they mean a lot to the team. That in the locker room, they make the younger players play harder. They give them part wisdom. They could coach them up on the team. So you get so many of those tenders where you can tag somebody with that when you really want to keep them, even though mathematically they really aren't a high enough competitor to make the roster. You can make those exceptions by having a limited amount of those tags and let teachers compete. Let schools be able to, take all of our education dollars and pool them, right? Almost like salary caps, where every school district gets the same amount, not taxpayer. It's the same amount of money, right? Mm-hmm. So there are school districts that are going to get worse teachers based on what they pay in their taxes. Mm-hmm. So I think every person that lives somewhere should pay the exact same amount for education. Not if you live in a good school with high property taxes, you pay more. You end up in lower income places and they pay less. So those schools have less to work with. Pull it up, give a salary cap to everyone, and then make them pull from the highest talent where they have the most need. So that would be in place of what does a true teachers union do? Like, what's their function? Why would I want to join that?
I don't know. I've never worked in the school system.
Okay. So number one argument is they are the ones that negotiate contracts for more wages for the teachers that they represent. So rather than I have to go and negotiate with my board, they do that on my behalf. They fight for more benefits. They fight for more pay. They fight for more, curriculum that goes along with teaching styles, all that kind of stuff. They fight for the nuts and bolts of what the teacher experiences when they're there, and they entrust them. Number two, they defend teachers who may have things charged against them. So kid gets hurt in a classroom, there's some speculation that something happens. They will spend the resources to defend a teacher to make sure that they don't lose their job, rather than the teachers themselves having to put up legal fees. Mm-hmm. They are defended based on what the union protecting the teachers. They're there to be the bulldog for the actual teachers. And then political campaigns, they're very political. And so they make contributions to contenders in elections that go along with being pro-education. So they'll give money to campaigns, and that's probably the most evil part of that, because if you're a teacher and you give 10% of what you make to your union, and your union takes that and gives money to a candidate that you would have never voted for, that's part of your expression taken away from you. It's one thing if you make the donation, but if your union does that on our behalf using funds that you give them, that's bad. And then the fourth thing is pensions and retirements. Okay. And so they defend making sure that they opt out of Social Security and they have their own pensions. They manage the investments and make sure teachers can retire at about, what they made when they were, actively teaching, so that when they retire after 25 years or whatever it is, that they're taken care of. So I would say it wouldn't be hard for an outside group to do that and to do it well and to do it cheaper and to do it better and make teachers.
Yeah, 'cause I was saying, most of that sounds good.
It absolutely does. But it can be done by other people who take the individual interest. If they're politically captured, then they're never going to take a conservative teacher and really express themselves. They might protect their job in its totality, but they're going to protect your job.
It's so funny. Speaking of politically captured,
Yes.
if you want to hear more about the pit,
Oh, no. Why do you do this to yourself?
I don't know. I don't know. All right, listen, I made a declaration yesterday after watching another episode with my daughter. I went, and I'm out. I'm out. I can't do this anymore. When the ICE agents showed up in the emergency room on the pit with a scared, helpless woman that these two mean brutes with masks on had seemingly hurt and dislocated her shoulder, probably slamming her around unnecessarily.
Right.
And it was just this picture painted of these evil beings in the ER and people freaking out. And I'm just like, okay, I'll allow it. If the next scene is the ICE agent that came in, who's the victim, who just got hit by someone's car, or the ICE agent who brought in a criminal that just shot somebody because they're a criminal, and I want you to treat them the same way, right? But no, it's the one-sided. It's the one-sidedness that gets me. And I just,
listen,
it sucks me in because some parts of it are cool.
Liberals need red meat. That is a show that is giving liberals exactly what they want. The terms, ideas, they need that and they want that. You just happen to be going to, you're walking. Okay. So you're at the buffet, right?
Yeah.
And it says vegan buffet, right? And you're not a vegan and you're walking up to the vegan buffet and you're like, I like Brussels sprouts a lot, but where's my meat? And I'm gonna like, hey, that's not for you. Like, you're going to be frustrated because that's not what they're delivering. See over there is the red meat people. Right?
Yeah.
Come over here, take your little morsels, but don't make the vegan buffet add meat because you're displeased with what they're offering.
I almost want like a disclaimer in the beginning or something. Clearly funded by the Democratic Party or something like that. Like, far liberal, viewer discretion advised. They have a warning that says flashing lights may be difficult for photosensitive viewers. Just put under there too.
Do you know,
and by the way, extremely woke.
Do you know how annoyed I get with you in the morning with your drumming and incessant things? That annoyance when I tell you about it?
I'm sorry, I'm a happy person that comes in humming and I drum to our...
But does it kill me? Do I die? I get through it every day and I let you know that I'm annoyed. That show is annoying you in the same patterns as it did the last time.
Why do I watch it?
That's the difference.
Because there are some shock.
You inflict your annoyances on me. You are inflicting the pit on yourself doing that. No, if I said, I hold up a little card that says, hey, here's the pit. How are you, if you watch this today, how are you going to feel? And you would tell me, oh, if I watch that, they're going to throw some things up on the screen that I just disagree with and I know what they're doing. Yeah. And I'm going to say, hey, let's not watch this today. And then you feel none of those things.
Worst case scenario, they have an extremely one-sided political agenda that is annoying. And best case scenario, it's incredibly graphic and gruesome and does nothing but raise my anxiety. Like, oh my God, God forbid something like that ever happened to me or my family.
Everybody in our audience is saying, if you watch tomorrow, you are going to be complaining the next day every single time. Now you know. Yep. And all of us are just going to roll our eyes. What do you think about kids indoctrinating? Parents?
Well, this is why I feel bad, because my daughter is now super into this show and she wants to keep watching.
Parents of liberals usually churn out liberal kids in the short term and end up having conservative kids later on. Conservative families usually churn out conservative kids and they churn out liberal kids later on until they become conservatives again later in life when they figure out how math works and their brains continue to form. But anyway, you know, I noticed that we were watching some kind of show, and towards the end of the show, they did one of those environmentalist, you know, we're destroying the earth and robbing land from the Indians and all that kind of stuff. And my kid looked over at me and he rolled his eyes. And I'm like, what did I create here? I have been way too outspoken that now my kid is processing the world with the woke ideologies are such an annoyance to a 16-year-old and that I do no justice by giving him those biases.
Yeah, because I went off when this scene happened. And I have been like in front of my daughter sort of verbalizing my annoyance with how political the show is. But when this happened, I went, oh, I'm done. I am done. I cannot take this bullshit anymore. Every freaking social issue has now been touched on this show in the most biased fashion. And I'm like, just going off on it. My daughter's kind of like, don't really care kind of thing. But she, I know, heard me because I even said, you know what? That's fine. That's fine. Paint this picture. But they better now have a scene that shows the other side of everything. They better have a scene where this guy wasn't the problem, or this person didn't actually do that. And this person, like, it's one-sided. It's so freaking one-sided. And I was like, I can't, I was like, you watch, I'm out. And I went and like sat on the porch with my husband. And then inevitably she keeps watching and I come back in and I'm like, well, what happened there? What'd they do? What'd they, you know, like I get sucked in again. But yeah, part of me is like, don't train the kids to be any kind of way. Let them be free thinkers. But it's so hard to mask the like, oh, like I want them to also see bias, you know, and I want them to be able to like appreciate nuance and middle ground and the difficulty in situations and why things aren't always black and white. And yes, this could be this, but this could also be this. So keep that in mind. And
so let's just take a family. Okay, this is what naturally occurs. Your kids look to you for that kind of guidance and they watch you model after your behaviors and how you feel about stuff. So let's just say every day you talked about inclusion and equity. Christopher Columbus is a savage. We stole from the Indians. All of that. Like you hate the world around you because look at all of these injustices that are freaking everywhere. Well, that kid's like, yeah, I believe that too. Like my mom said it, my dad said it, so that must be how it is. But then they go to regular school and they're also insulated in that bubble. And then they go to college and they're insulated in that bubble. But once they break out, their brains form, they see how the real world works. They start seeing a real version of what they thought was. And they get this huge exclamation point error that comes in their head. And they're like, holy shit, I was hoodwinked. Like I just realized that Santa was never real. Right. And then they're like, I'm conservative because everybody lied to me. And now I mistrust everything that I was told when I was a kid. It was all fake. And then again, like conservatives don't have that real experience. They make these conservative kids, but they do it in a way that is sacrificial, where they take all of the, you know, the instincts that you have as a kid and you don't do those, right? It's almost like a Amish, right? They get to their teenage years and they've got the same hormones that all of us do. And they're given a chance to go off the reservation and experience the real world. Yeah. And they're eager and excited to go do all of the things they were not allowed to do. So that's why conservative kids go out there and dabble in the dark arts for a little while until they get caught up in all of the the consequences of the dark arts, and then they're like, holy shit, my parents are right. Even though I experienced this stuff, there's not as much to it as I thought. Let me get back to my conservative principles.
Yeah, because I remember fearing, like, when I was a kid and I was growing up, I would see other kids or other people my age that were their parents were very strict. They weren't allowed to do a lot of the things that the rest of us were. If they did, it was almost hidden. And they kind of go off and they get wild and dangerous. And so to me, it's almost like I want you to know exactly ahead of time about things and what people do and the consequences and benefits of everything. Don't feel like you have to do something dangerous and hide it because you needed to experience that. Like, there's a happy medium.
I think you need that, though, right? I think the rebellious nature and spirit and everyone is there, and the only difference is how you choose to express it. So if you give, like, if everybody's going to be pursuing sex, and if everybody's going to pursue things that are highly risky, and everybody wants to push against the status quo, as a parent, you're like, I'm not going to deprive you of something that has naturally happened and think that you're going to be strong enough to not do that forever. It's only going to be when you're not with me anymore. You're going to do all those things when I can't help you anymore. You got to give those things in a way that might be productive or have a chance of being productive. I think that's the innovations that AI is going to help us tackle, is instead of us being just ignorant people who pretend like those things don't exist, AI is going to acknowledge, like, hey, you know what? You're going to have a streak here where you're going to want to fill some indulgences. And if the rule is that you want to make the safest indulgences just to satisfy that hunger, here's the ones that you want to go do so you can survive your decision.
Yeah, like the one, I guess, credit I'll give to the show, The Pit, is I've been told, I've never worked in a hospital system, but people I know who have said it's the closest to real life that they've seen on TV, that it's very realistic and like how things are. And even though it's gruesome, I almost kind of use the different traumas as like teaching moments, like 12-year-old little boy, same age as my kids, come in. It's the 4th of July right now on these episodes we're watching. And he literally blew half his hand off holding a firework. And so while I want to say look away because they show everything, I'm like, you guys don't ever pick up a firework. Like, you guys have to promise me you won't ever hold this in your hand. That's so stupid. Like, they see all these people come in that made terrible life decisions and where they are now. And it's like, let this be a lesson to you, as you're going to end up there with this problem if you don't make better choices. But then it almost is like, there was one episode yesterday, one of the patients was talking about sex or something. And I looked at my daughter and I was like, when it's safe sex. And she's like, Mom, stop. Like,
all right, let me teach you this.
Yeah.
So do you think, especially little boys, like fireworks?
Probably.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a temptation in there for fireworks.
Yeah.
So what Joe does is I do dangerous things with my kid. Right? I know they want to see things blow up. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the fire pit and we'll take some cardboard. We'll take some kerosene or some gasoline and we'll soak the cardboard. We'll wrap it up. And then we'll do safely where we get to blow shit up, knowing that we're in a controlled, safe deal. So we scratch that itch, right? Yeah. And so we saw a movie and it had a bunch of ninjas and in it, and they were throwing stars and whatever. So I went to the backyard and I picked up some cardboard. We took some steak knives and some sharp knives and we did knife throwing in the backyard. We're going to get that out of the system where we went and did the thing. I didn't say, don't do it, it's unsafe. I said, let's go do it. This is awesome.
It's funny.
That's the difference.
Because you can't even guarantee that they won't do it when they're, I know a grown man one time told me they were drinking at a party. Like, middle-aged adult stuck something in between his butt crack and it went off.
Right.
And literally blew a hole in him. And I'm just like, that's not even a 12-year-old kid.
So do you think your don't do it is better than let's go do it? Which do you think has more staying power?
It might depend. It might depend on the kid. Like, my dad used to, I don't know. I feel like I got both doses. I was very scared of everything growing up. I still am. And I think that was part of that. Everything is dangerous. Don't do everything. Anything can kill you.
There's where the rebellious spirit will manifest right around that.
But I never got that. I never wanted to be in danger. I was scared of everything. But there was also, some like, let's go handle some firearms and learn how to do it safely.
Right.
Let's, I remember even being told, if you ever get curious about alcohol and you want to have a drink, don't go hide it. Come to us.
I'll drink with you.
Sit in the kitchen and we'll have a drink. Yeah.
I try to tempt my kid with alcohol all the time. I do.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. Yeah. He gets bribed not to drink it.
Yeah.
I didn't get bribed. I was told, listen, we know you're going to do it. Be safe about it. And if you get caught, don't come running to me. You knew the law.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like my kid has learned beyond my capacity at this point. And in most cases, he's smarter than me at 16. And so I have to I have to have a dinner conversation trying to teach some kind of mechanism. But when I bring it up, it's like, I was there like a year ago, Dad. Let's not keep talking about this. Or I'm going to have to get smarter so I can get up to his level so we can continue the conversation kind of thing. So now I have to take like cultural type of phenomenon that he just hasn't hit yet. So I can at least be the authority on something he hasn't experienced. And that's where I'm putting all my time right now. We're not talking about time travel and physics and advanced mathematics because now he's smarter than me. And that saddens me a little bit.
I was surprised over the weekend. My kids started singing, I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. Remember that song?
What a contrast.
I was like,
conversations.
How do you know that song, kid? That's my kid.
Huge contrast.
Physics. Skilo. I was surprised. I can't believe he knew that song.
What else? I didn't give you first.
Listen, both my kids are on the honor roll, by the way, so he can listen to that stuff all he wants.
Okay. What else?
Oh gosh, what was it? The Pit. Idiots.
Stop saying no. I'm from this point on. The Pit is dead on this show. I don't care if you watch it.
I want you to watch it just because I want to watch your head explode.
No, it's like
I want to be like, see, Joe.
Listen, if I had a can of the worst smelling stuff, I'm like, oh, this smells really bad. Smell it.
It tastes terrible. You gotta try it.
Why would you want to expose me to something
bad
that is terrible? Share nice things. Like, this is a tulip. It smells so good. Smell it too. I want you to enjoy the tulipness.
What do you think it is, though, that brings people back? Is it the trauma? Is it the drama of like, kind of like people want to look if there's an accident or something? Wonder if it's that. If like we are as human beings are so used to the drama of, ooh, look what happened. I want to watch kind of thing.
Yes.
Even though it gets so gruesome, I'm like, nope, don't want to watch anymore. Too much.
What else? Besides that,
I'm a normie. What else? What else was there? What happened over the weekend? Anything?
The Iranian stuff. Are you 10 o'clock today? So in about 13 minutes, this should happen.
What?
You didn't hear any of this?
No.
Oh yeah, you're too busy singing. I wish I was a baller, a little bit taller.
Don't be mad. My life is cooler than yours. Okay.
All right. So this is sort of a good we're dealing with all bad stuff. Wars happening in the first place with a president who said we're not going to do any more wars, and here we find ourselves in the middle of a cost hemorrhaging, skirmish between us, Iran, Israel, and some neighborlies over there too are getting joined in.
Yeah.
So basically, what happened? You got the Strait of Hormuz, which is a main waterway for tankers to fill up in the Arabian Peninsula and then make its way out to the market in the world. Well, Iran is on the western side of the Strait of Hormuz. And they put mines in the water and they have drones that will blow your ship up if we don't want. And they said nobody passes, right? Except for Iranian oil tankers get to go out. They're going to let themselves. They're going to take a few other people who either pay a toll, $2 million to be able to get through, right? And so this is bad because this was Iran was still being able to make money with their oil exports. And then so Iran set an embargo, nobody passes. So the US is like, hey, we're going to do our own embargo. So now the United States and a couple of allies are taking over the Strait of Hormuz and keeping Iranian tankers from leaving. Why this is brilliant is because they are not a multi-industry country. You know why they make their money and stay afloat? Oil.
Yeah.
We snarl and make it so there's zero tankers coming out of your country. Your finances, your economy dies within 30 days.
Ooh.
So it was F you, no F you.
F you.
And then once you sort of have the Strait of Hormuz, then you can reverse it and let all oil traffic out of there except for Iran, and then baiting them like, okay, you want to blow us up? Come at us, bro. We've got 29 battle ships in your place here. You're dead meat.
So what's the 10 o'clock deadline?
10 o'clock is when the embargo is set to hit. The United States is locking it down. So you may see some aggressions ratchet up here in the next couple hours where Iran, they're desperate. This is the last thing. They know they're dead meat. So anything can happen after 10 o'clock. It might be just the threat. There might be already an agreement done leading up to that. This might, because,
that's in 9 minutes.
Yeah. Because, the taco, the taco accusation.
The taco accusation.
Yeah. So people are starting to figure out that a lot of what Trump says was bluster, and he doesn't really come through on it. And I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but it basically, he's a wuss. He won't come through. Too scared to whatever. You get the drift. It's
taco's an acronym.
Yes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And so we're gonna obliterate you last week after the 2 weeks went off, and he was like, we extended the deadline. That was the first accusation. He's too scared to actually do that. So if he does it, he's a tyrant. If he doesn't do it, he's a scaredy cat. So like on the liberals, no matter what happens, you know what they're going to levy. But anyway, so this embargo is going to be, are they really going to do it? Or was this a threat to get a good position on negotiations? We'll see.
John says, so this makes American oil prices go down?
This is awesome. This is awesome.
Okay.
So if you watch there's a, like you can watch the airplanes on radar, every airplane that's in the skies at any given time. You've never seen that?
I've heard of this. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they have one for ships too. And so basically what happened was a majority of the oil tankers that used to fuel up in the Gulf now have made the long trip to Texas and Louisiana to fill up. And so American oil, we have an overcapacity. About 20% of the oil produced, we sell to the world market. But we have all of this foreign interest to avoid that area altogether. And we're capturing new customers that are coming to the Gulf to sell our oil, and they're bypassing the Gulf states for it. So the reason that gas and oil prices right now are high, because if you have a supply disruption coming out of the Gulf, prices are pegged to futures on oil. If there's a supply disruption, then futures go up because people are panic buying into the supply that already exists, and they push prices up. When there's an oversupply, barrels of oil go down. Well, in the last month, there was a snarl where there wasn't enough oil. So those commodities guys were bidding up the price of oil because they needed it. They wanted to make sure that 6 months from now they had a supply, and overpaid on purpose. So in the United States, when we sell oil, we're not selling oil at our own pricing. We are selling that oil pegged to the price of oil on the world market. It's all connected. So some of that foreign money was coming back to the United States in increased prices. We don't have sort of any national regulations that companies here can bypass world markets and sell and distribute oil on the local market and just exclude the rest of the whole market, the international market. But what this does is, being that those tankers now have found an alternate source of getting their oil in the United States, commodities investors don't have to buy ahead and overbid, because now the supply has normalized, and prices will effectively go down because now there'll be too much of it. Especially with all of these people buying those futures out at an increased price, they're not going to buy anymore, right? And because they bought ahead so far, thinking there was going to be a disruption.
Twain says the USA is back.
Oh, this was. I don't know if this is accidental. I don't know if this was the plan. That was going to be my next
question. Was
part of me thinks, no way you take that risk for that plan. And I think,
or did he luck out?
And then I'm thinking all the things that predated that happening. I'm like, this could have been 10D chess after all. And I don't want to credit that because it's such a cliche, but man, this ended up working out in our advantage.
I know. I keep wondering that too. Every time I hear something really good, I was like, wow, did he really luck out? And like one of those, whoo, thank God that worked moments. Or, yeah, was this sort of the game plan the whole time?
Well, good things keep happening to us, right? So
yeah,
regardless if it's being orchestrated or it's just the benefit of doing smart things. Biden was famous about like doing dumb things. And when we said you're going to create inflation or whatever, then they would deny that those are going to happen. And then when those happen, they would deflect and blame something else.
Yeah.
Now it's like, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And then you do it and it happens. And you're like, oh, okay, well, these are the symptoms of a naturally, effective marketplace. So.
John says, so China and Russia are good with this embargo?
No, that is the other danger. That is the other danger, because we have enemies that are part of this. Russia, China, that whole part of the country that have leverage points that are other than energy. Used to be that if you controlled the energy, you controlled the world, because, you
needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you know what the new oil is.
Technology.
Yeah. So it's chips, and almost all of the chips that we use are produced in Taiwan. Okay. That should concern you, because who does not acknowledge that Taiwan even exists?
What? Who doesn't acknowledge Taiwan doesn't exist?
China does not like Taiwan at all. Okay.
So they pretend they just don't exist? Or
no, they are enemy. They are as an
Okay.
extension of China, not a separate entity. So you watch, the next domino to fall is China invading Taiwan. Okay. China held a lot of leverage with energy markets and the people that they were friendly with in that part of the world. If Taiwan ends up being the next leverage point, we will have to be very friendly with Taiwan. If China were smart, they would invade Taiwan tomorrow.
Yikes.
Yeah. It's a tinderbox. I'm telling you, there's nothing about this that is going to be safe. And once you do the whole, invade Iran and start aggressing and start making more enemies and, kind of like coalescing an ally group, you are setting yourself up where World War III isn't just something that we hope doesn't happen. It's almost going to happen because of these all these other things that are connected to it.
It's like watching the show Survivor, and everyone's making their alliances, but in the end, they're all for themselves.
It's all defined. We already know what tipping points are going to happen. If you take the power control over energy, it shifts to technology and chips. If you take the chips and shit, it's going to be another thing. Like, we know what dominoes are already in play. My hope, which I don't think, but I hope that there are really smart people in government that know and see what we're talking about right now and have contingencies that when the inevitable thing happens, that they already know what they're going to do. And it's just part of the plan. I don't think they're smart enough. And I think these are more accidents than on purpose, is my fear.
Joe said something up higher earlier. Good book, The Shadow of War by Jeff Shara, all about the behind-the-scenes negotiations with Russia during the missiles of October, with a side part from a family in Florida and what they went through.
And I'm telling you, the Ukraine-Russia thing is not over. It is not even really begun. That is going to be a festering sore until this skirmish gets done. Then there's that skirmish. Because remember, Russia, Iran, that whole axis of people who really hate the West, they are not finished. They're not going to just say, oh, you got us in Iran. Well, you took over the oil superiority. Oh, you protected the chips. All right, we're done. We're just going to say, okay, West, you're awesome. No, it's going to get deeper and more nefarious. John says facts, and I agree. It's rare that these kinds of things are talked about with such high resolution understanding. And that is me patting myself on the back here. But everybody knows this, but the popular sentiment and how it's discussed is never this.
His plan was peace, but you can't negotiate with a terrorist regime.
And my objection to that is they didn't become a terrorist regime today. They've been that way. And we are the outlier in not being a terrorist regime. Everyone who is subordinate to us or not as powerful as us need to do guerrilla warfare to have any chance to stand up against the United States. And they use terrorism, just like in Vietnam, they used a different rule book, right, to have a chance of standing up against the United States.
Julie says, unfortunately, the U.S. is not making more money than this war costs.
Maybe not initially, but if you graph it out, a $60 billion expenditure to secure oil production for the rest of the world might be a net gain. It might cost you a little bit in the destruction and the rebuilding afterwards, but if you can lock down the next 10 years of oil superiority where we are a major player in the world market as far as oil distribution, like that might be a worthwhile expense.
Do you think this is another one of his examples of going to hurt, but then it'll get better?
I don't think he's going to be around, or his influence is going to be around long enough to bring this all the way to fruition. So I think we're going to pay the consequence, and the benefit's going to get interrupted when we get some dolt who takes over either Congress or the executive branch.
No.
I think this is going to take 10 years to really pay off, and I think they're going to sabotage the shit out of it and hang that on Republicans' neck so they can win elections. That's just my theory. Oh yeah, John says don't forget about North Korean Kim Jong-un. He's already started to hit. See, I think North Korea is a weird one because they got in this habit of saber rattling to get money, right? They're smart. They come up and say, we're going to develop nuclear weapons, right? And the United States is, no, you're not. And they're like, yeah, see, we're going to do this missile test. And we give them $8 billion. And then they go quiet for 4 years. And then they run out of money. And they're like, oh, we need some more money. We're going to make nuclear weapons. And they got this cycle of just doing a dumb thing, knowing everybody's going to pay them off, and then going silent. But I don't think they have the resources or they have the motivation. But if you use Iran as nuclear pursuits for power gains, that might be a good enough illustration to change the formula, the algebra on what Kim Jong-il is willing to do. Because if he knows, like, if I say that, they're going to bomb me into oblivion.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe he changes that tune, but maybe would you pay him off just to make him silent if you knew that worked?
Wouldn't like it.
A little bit of extortion for you.
Yeah. Julie says Trump managed to piss off the Pope. I don't know if that's a hard thing to do.
They each play their roles. The Pope has to say certain things. Trump has to say certain things. And I'm not happy with either one of them, to be frank. I mean, listen, Mr. Pope, you've got an organization that did really well over the years. Lots of property, lots of resources, lots of churches. And you got a lot of things wrong. So before you start airing things out that, take care of your own house first, okay? Not real pleased with any of your popages over the years.
Just read yesterday, before you start calling out the fleck in his eye, take the log out of your own.
Yeah, right. They should do that. They should internalize and say,
Bible verse.
and use some of that admonishment for your own leadership and the church in general. There you go. Wait a minute.
I used something I learned.
Is this heresy? Is this lightning strike by the end of day, Joe? I think so. Franklin says, Joe, China will not invade Taiwan. China is all about making money. That is their history. That is the way to appease both China and Taiwan. They are ruthless when it comes to economics. They know what they're doing, and they do not make any kind of rogue movements. They know how to protect their interests. They might be tyranny. They might be communism, but they know what the hell they're doing. So to play them, you're not going to be playing with stupid ayatollahs that are use nothing but, their ideologies. This is economics that China knows better than us. For sure, they have the means to be way better at us when it comes to the money flow. So I said if they were smart, they would lock down. If they lose oil influence, they would be smart to lock down chip manufacturing. And by doing that, taking over Taiwan would be a smart play. Not saying that they would actually do that.
I want to know how Julie feels about the pit. You watched the pit, Julie? I'm just curious.
Did you hear 20 minutes ago? I forbade you to bring up that word and even discuss it.
Too bad. See, man.
Daddy Trump will take the major share of the oil out of Iran. It will be coming back to America. And I felt the same way about Venezuela. What does this change for the United States with the now forced cooperation with Venezuela? Like that had some benefits that could happen as well. So you remember that whole story about where Venezuela was at?
A little bit.
All right. So they were dominated as an oil producing country. United States did a bunch of investment in infrastructure so that oil could be harvested. And because they were brain dead, they neglected all of the infrastructure and they started starving their people out because they couldn't produce enough oil to keep their economies running from their one industry that they were good at. So we kicked that regime out. And now that infrastructure has a chance to bloom, reinvestment, bring all of those facilities back. And now they're a force friendly, but a friendly, where we can get the different type of crude oil that comes out of South America, different than the Texas, different than the Canadian oil. It's a different product. And so if United States could wholesale buy that and put it into our refining and our production systems, that could be a dominating force. You at Iran, is it worthwhile blowing up all the leadership, taking over Iran and making another force friendly out of the Middle East where they're not beholden to you? They're an ally in oil production and they work with us instead of competing with us. I mean, that might be a byproduct. That would be a loose byproduct because I don't trust any country in that area. Venezuela, I trust. There's some actual countries that we have pretty good relationships with. We have some Argentina or we have some conservative groups that are doing it kind of right and have turned the corner on it. So we have evidence that it's possible. There, name a real Middle Eastern country that has figured it out other than we got all the oil. We can do everything we want to do.
Yeah. Julie says she doesn't watch TV at all.
Good for you, Julie. That's the way to do it.
Well, you'll love The Pit. Just saying. Maybe not. It's pretty gruesome. Don't watch it.
John
it's
says
graphic.
Before the midterm elections, lots of potential global uncertainty. Yeah, this was a hornet's nest that if you wanted to go conservative, like they may have seen it. They may have said, if we just do status quo going into the midterms, we're going to lose all of Congress, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be liberal controlled. It's going to be nothing but impeachment hearings and undoing everything we spent doing for the last one. We need a big one. We need a big W going into the beginning of summer. We need low inflation. We need oil prices down. We need new allies in oil. We need to take that energy, surplus and bring it back into the country. You go into the summer with all those W's, they got to wrap it up quick. Like there's not a lot of time. And then you end cap it with secure elections. I think that is your only hope. It was using the military as a election strategy makes my stomach hurt. Right? No president should be able to wield military power and weapons to be able to win elections. Now, were they things that could have and should have happened anyway? Yes, but that was not your motivation and inspiration. This was solely to win the midterms, and I cannot be convinced otherwise.
Yeah.
See, we did a little politics, and it didn't even hurt.
Politics.
Yeah. So let me check what you talk. I'm going to look up the embargo and see if there are any.
Oh, I was just wondering if anybody knew what happened over the weekend with this. What was it called? Teen. Somebody help me. What happened in Boardman over the weekend between Walmart and the Skate Connection in Boardman? There was like massive police presence in Boardman. It was all over social media. I think the Skate Connection was having like a teen night that may have gone awry, and like Boardman, Poland, Canfield, maybe Struthers police all called to this area. Like,
I only have one condemnation for this. One big one. Do you remember a couple of months ago that the schools permitted kids to do
teen takeover? I thought that's what it was called.
Did allow kids to walk out because of ICE protests and whatever. When you're mad about something, take an expression where you break rules, and we're underpinning that in the psyches of young kids, where if you had a controlled populace of students, they would know following the rules and what behaviors were accepted and how you take your expressions of negativity and anger, how you take it out. We're teaching them to be terrible adults. And so if you think that they're not going to act foolishly when they go to their little events and do walkouts and disturbing the peace and vandalism and violence, you're wrong. That's what you're freaking teaching them in the halls of school. So that's I'm condemning schools for
I'm
doing
wondering
stupid
what
shit.
happened though. Yeah, the skating rink had something. Teen takeover. It was a night for teens. Teen takeover is happening across all 50 states through social media. Okay, was there a problem or was the heavy police presence part of it? The story presented that played out on social media looked like something happened. Fight broke out. I don't know, something. I never did hear why such heavy police presence. And I think the police presence was in the Walmart, which means there was a rumor that like a fight started or something. And the Skate Connection's like, get out of here. Night's over, party's over, go. And the scuffle went into the Walmart. I don't know if that was completely made up or what, but.
Well, it's pretty popular without knowing anything. I would guess that they were like, hey, there's 100 of us. Let's just run into Walmart and steal a bunch of stuff, and they can't catch all of us. And they did mass theft. Those what were they called? Mob. I forget what they call it, but looting, mob looting. And that's my guess is they probably vandalized, they probably stole stuff, and they probably started fights because that's what our kids are.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Congratulations, you secularists.
Back in my day,
captured academia.
I remember there was a bar in Austintown. I think it's what's it called now? It was 1743, and then it became the Wedge. Now I think it's like a country bar. What the heck is it called? Anywho, when it was 1743, they did a teen night, and obviously no alcohol. It was pop and water, and teens could come and dance, and it was like a dance club. Maybe I am delusional and I am remembering this differently, but I don't remember any major problems. A scuffle here and there, sure. Somebody causing a problem and they got bounced out, sure. But like something that was just such a massive, I don't know, to have multiple police departments respond and everything like.
Well, ask a teacher and ask them about the behaviors in the last couple of years versus the last 15, 20 years. And kids are a different animal. They're monsters and they can't be reined in. They're medicated out the ass. Their chromosomes or their hormones have been changed because of pharmaceuticals and those
parents want to be their friend instead of their parent.
No shit. Like if you do all of those things, how do you create a monster? I'll give you the recipe book. Go do those things. And you're going to have uncontrollable kids who are expressing themselves through everything a 15-year-old, contemplates during the day. No shit.
Oh, the teen fight, steal and break stuff. This is a national trend.
Amen.
And Franklin, do you think it's gotten worse? Has this gotten worse?
No,
in the last so many years,
we had a theoretical. We said kids are spending too much time in video games. They need to get out and do what we did as kids. And then we're like, oh, well, you have a bunch of monsters. If you send them out in the world, they're going to break shit, steal stuff, and cause violence. Now I'm going to say, okay, I was wrong. Get them in front of the video games, where at least they can take those aggressions out in front of their videos. No, video games don't rewire the brain. But exposure to constant violence and sex, that doesn't rewire the brain. Having social media where you're seeing your peers go in and take big screen TVs and you get away with it and not in charge. That's not rewiring your brain. You've got little monsters.
Let's remove a parent from the home.
Yeah, maybe.
And see where that influence went.
No shit. Again, mathematic. This is shit. This is the no shit moment.
Yeah.
Get them back in your house. Put them in your basement. Give them the video games and the VR. At least they're not affecting the rest of us. Dungeon. Keep them in the dungeon.
In the dungeon. John says, I can remember big brawls in the parking lot of Idora Park back in the 70s.
Yep. And if you have the chance of going viral on social media with your fight or whatever, I'm addicted to that kind of attention. So I'm going to do that kind of stuff.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Did you see that the replacement rate, the birth rate dropped to non-replacement values?
What?
Yeah.
Meaning like we're not making enough to.
So replacement value is 2.1.
Okay.
Right? Father, mother having 2.1 kids to increase the replacement value. So you're going to die and you're going to have 2 kids that replace you. 0.1 means that you're going to have a little bit more to expand the population. We are trending in most states between 1.5 and 1.6 kids per family.
So instead of families averaging most of them having 3 kids, they're now maybe 1.
Yep. and it's averaging down. So we're below replacement value, which causes population collapse over the next 10 years.
Why do you think that is?
Do you know why that is?
I've got a couple of theories.
Okay. I think there are 5 primary reasons. Give me yours.
Okay. In no particular order. I think one reason is increasing complications with reproduction.
Okay.
Through
Caused by what?
Reasons. Probably poisons in our food and not being healthy.
Yes.
Lack of serious relationships.
Okay.
I mean, you could go on Tinder and get a one-night stand anytime you want. You can hook up and hang out with all kinds of people. There's no reason to be serious. What else is there? Due to multiple different domino effect of different things, maybe people are making less money, and so they're just deciding to sort of wait until.
Well, they are waiting, and it's because that women are choosing going into the workplace, which means they're not around to have family. They wait until finances are better to start a family. You wait in a woman's body, and they have a harder time getting pregnant. So, waiting too long, transactional relationships.
Reproductive problems
because of phthalates and chemicals and stuff that's in our food and water pollutants and whatnot. Let's see what else. I had 5 of them and they all went out of my head.
Affordability,
maybe affordability, where it's gotten too expensive to have kids. Pornography and competition for satisfy. Like guys will chase chicks around just for the getting some pleasure out of it. If pleasure can be replicated and cheaper ones that don't have the messy consequences of having a relationship. So competition and output.
I could also see too in this sort of like Instagram era of people comparing their lives all the time. Do you think people almost want to leave these like lavish luxury vacation? I think influencer lives.
The statistic is that that you have 99% of the women chasing 1% of the men. So I think the standards and what is out there and what's possible, your ideal mate, the standards went up so high that normal guys don't really, have a chance when you see the guys that are on social media and Instagram as being what you want, and then everything else is substandard. So
if there's more single women than men, and men are also the sex that probably don't have that biological need or clock ticking, then it's like double stacked against it.
You got too many options. And now it's like, let's just say Kelin lived in a neighborhood that before the internet, or a city within an internet, you would select who you paired up with based on the availability of people that lived in that city. So what you could have got, right, is probably way higher than what you ended up settling with, because that was the best that you could get in your territory. But now your territory is unlimited. You could match with someone across the entire United States or world. So then you can, like, if you're living in a city where the beauty value for guys is at a 5 out of 10, but you have access to 10s elsewhere, why would you choose a 5 when you totally have the competition from everywhere else?
Yeah. We're messed up.
But what do you do about it? Like, that all of our systems collapse with population collapse, our social security, our health systems, our pension systems, workforce, everything collapse. Houses that buy, infrastructure, fire, schools, everything collapses when population. So it's a big enough event, right, that you can do something about it. Do you take the China method?
The China method?
Do you remember the China method?
Was that like where they kill the girls or something?
Yeah, they had too many. They had too much population, so they righted it with giving licenses to breed, and they aborted female, take the breeders out of the equation. So what do you do to
I feel like this administration at least ran on some ideas, like they were going to try to like fund IVF and encourage people to have babies that way. Obviously Trump has the whole account to newborn babies that get that savings account, so to speak. So I feel like this conversation began with some ideas thrown out there. I don't really know.
But I don't think, I think the political parties are going to either magnify this or try to really squash this out. If it's a big deal, right? If you look at liberal policies, it is a lot of people are evil. We're destroying the environment. So let's depopulate. Number two, let's take lifestyles where breeding isn't even part of it and push that on iron. So we take breeders out of it. So on an ideological level, they're kind of doing it without the strict abortion. And take abortion in that. How many dead babies would have been breeders and would have been families if we didn't just make it so easy and accessible to kill people off in our society?
I mean, I keep hearing there's like a housing crisis. Why would somebody start a family with kids if there's no housing?
It's a good, but again, if you take it as a primary civilization ender, then you spend money to solve the reasons why people are. So if it's access to pornography or transactional relationships or destroying the nuclear family or having the cost of living or not affordable housing, like all of those things are contributing to it, you would see government spending to be able to right that, not just putting all your effort into making babies more possible or forcing babies on people, but set the conditions so that if you do it, it's more, like what was that called in the days where you could, if you were willing to go and work a plot of land, manifest destiny. You were willing to work a plot of land, the government would give it to you for free, and we wanted people that were going to an area that was uninhabited. We want them to inhabit it, and the benefit was you get to keep the property if you went out there and made towns out of it, right? It was a good plan. We spent government money, gave property away because we wanted an outcome to happen, and we used something in our resources to make it more likely that what we wanted to happen happens. So, but think of what the liberals' take would be on this. If the government started flushing money into nuclear family, into procreation and, pro-life and all of that kind of stuff, it would just be another political thing. It wouldn't be hey guys, warning, population collapse, really bad. Got to do something about it. Put your ideologies on the table. Let's get more babies being produced right now.
And I mean, I could see the whole idea of, let's fund IVF for people. Well, could we also figure out why so many people need IVF? And is this something that we can avoid in the future?
Hard versus easy, though. How many generations is it going to take to get it off of the chemical dependencies of pharmaceuticals, eating healthy and exercising and being, once you're average, you're sort of like your medium health score is acceptable and not an embarrassment. If you got 80% of your people that are obese, diabetic, and are not even close to being healthy, well, that's going to be a harder toe because that's 350 million people you got to convert.
And then where's the line that someone is willing to cross between my body, my choice, government should not be involved in my health care, and except give me money for IVF when I want to have a baby?
Yeah.
You pay for it.
Right. Yeah, because that doesn't right your problem. You have more unhealthy people breeding that have unhealthy lifestyles, and you're going to have to do that again instead of having offspring that knows how to keep the body from deteriorating very quickly. But again, so that's a hard one. I don't think that's where I'm starting. I personally think this thing's just going to happen and nobody's going to do anything, and it's going to be too late before we realize what just happened. And I think those collapsing of those institutions are all going to happen. It's already in the cards. So I see nothing that solves it enough and gets more. It took us the last 15 years. It took us to drop from 2.3 to 1.5, which is a drastic drop, right? In those years. What percentage points are we going to kick that up? We got 5 years to do it. You wanted to increase the population by 1 point or 0.1 point. I don't think it moves the needle enough.
Jimmy says exposure to higher status men make lower to your men seem undesirable.
Yeah, they're off the radar. You can't get coupling when you have
lower
so many
tier men. Okay.
When you have so many choices, women can do whatever they want. They can get whoever they want. So I blame women, right, for being so highly selective that they're taking 90% of the guys off the radar. That's on them. They're doing it. Go out in the workplace and not having babies and not starting families. Like, it's all women. I mean, that seems like the linchpin when I started coming unglued.
It's all women's fault.
We broke that
it's all women's
standard
fault.
and tradition, and now look what happened.
Oh, us women. We just we cause all the problems.
Breaking everything.
John says Section 8 housing in Youngstown, forcing anyone under 67 to get a job or lose food stamps, EBT benefits.
Yeah, that's another warehousing. That seems to be a tendency. We don't know what to do with kids who don't want to learn, so we warehouse them into a strict environment that doesn't teach shit about being productive members of society. You get the poor.
Wow.
All we're going to do is put them in warehouses and manage
get them out of the way.
Yeah, just
don't
make them quiet, get them to vote for us, but we're not going to solve that problem. We're just going to warehouse people. So if you think, I get every time I can compare this to slavery, involuntary servitude, this is slavery light, where we're taking individuals and taking human nature out of them and making them serve their tiny existence anyway in absolutely horrid conditions, when we should be challenging people to use their instincts to better themselves and not being a victim and not taking benefits and having too much honor to be part of the enslavement. It's just me robbing these people from their potential.
So what could we do if we looked at these areas, government housing, neighborhoods, and we wanted to sort of create policy or do something that is like, we've got to solve this situation. All these little kids living here have got to be able to do better. What would that look like? What would be some steps to be like, listen, maybe there are some young adults that are too far gone, but these little ones, here's how we're going to give them better options.
I treat it like any other addiction. And this is addiction, benefits addiction, poverty addiction. They're stuck and it's not going to happen on its own. So how would you treat someone who's on heroin or addicted to alcohol? It's the same treatment where you have to pair with someone. They have to break them out from that environment, all of the controlling factors that keep them stuck in the addiction, and pair them up with a healthy person who can walk them through breaking the addiction first, whether or not it's a year of sobriety from poverty addiction or benefit addiction. And then you only let them loose to start making decisions after you've taught them how their next decision is not going to be to get back into the addiction cycle. We have this template. We know how to break addiction cycles, but we treat these ones like, oh, they're just one little morsel away from saying, I'm going to become an entrepreneur, an NBA player or whatever, and I'm going to break myself out of this addiction cycle. Well, it's like winning the lottery. That happens a percentage of the time. Everybody else falls into the same cycle that their parents and everybody they knew fell into because they're still around those people, around the benefits that get them addicted and the poverty that they're addicted to.
Yeah. What do you do when the parents are the biggest obstacle in screwing up the kid? And it's like, man, this kid doesn't yet have that addiction, doesn't yet have that dependency. If we could remove this child, they could thrive, but the parents.
Your argument would be if you had a best friend that said, hey, drink with us. You can do it. You could drink with us. And you went along with it and became an alcoholic because of your connection with a person who encouraged that kind of behavior or demonstrated that behavior, right?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to take a kid and remove them from parents who are a bad influence and know that it's going to be cycle to put them in foster care when there isn't a violence problem or abuse problem or whatever? Could that be big enough of a red flag to remove kids from disastrous home environments? That's a moral dilemma and does not have an answer I'm even comfortable with saying out loud.
I know, it's so tough though.
And who are you to say that poverty and that lifestyle shouldn't be the standard and these should be insulting and
like maybe we're fine. We're fine.
They're happy there. Maybe, yeah.
Who are you?
Privileged white lady from the suburbs?
I know.
That's exactly what it would be. So as much as you want to solve that problem, that's not yours to solve.
Yeah, that's another problem too, I think, keeping people stuck is if there is anyone that says, hey, I see a path you're on here that can be very detrimental.
Watching
the pit,
we need to do something here. Sugary stuff.
And then you get called out.
Okay, and I tell you about it. And then I am like,
don't judge
look at me, Mr. Don't judge you.
I can do what I want.
Exactly.
I'm just fine.
You've got free will.
Yeah.
So then my information isn't valuable to you. You go do the thing, right? But then you wander back and complain that what I told you would happen is happening. And I get to say,
but now you better come up with a way to get me money to get me out of my situation.
Come on, bail me out the second time.
Yeah.
Hey, if you spend all your rent money going on this vacation,
the
rent's
going
to be due and you're not going to have. No, it'll work.
I mean, you're doing fine. So you have enough. Just give it to me.
That's the victim. That's the addiction of the victimhood. There's power in it, and there's literal resources, money that comes along with it. Why wouldn't you do it? That was a big debate this weekend, is encouraging if you get, okay, so if you had a really good benefit that you had in mind, the people taking advantage of this could get. So let's just say you get a benefit if you don't make more than $30,000, right? And you're picturing someone who makes $27,000 and things tough, so they get this benefit and makes their life easier. Now you take another person and says, all I have to do is not make $30,000 and I get that benefit too. How many decisions, when you get the coupon of life where you get an extra free money, all I have to do is either hide money so that I can get the benefit, or just legitimately go get a part-time job that makes me $30,000 so I can go get your benefit. You did not have that person in mind, but you manufactured somebody who would go get the benefit by sacrificing their potential in the workplace. I
knew someone, they work in HR, and they had an employee one time they overheard say, I need to hurry up and have another kid so that I can get my benefits. And I've worked alongside people. This was many, many, many years ago. I remember hearing two coworkers have a conversation that quite literally was about cheating on their taxes and who was going to claim whose kids. And, oh yeah, I claim my friend's kids and blah, blah, blah. And they do all these different things. And they come up with all these ways of scamming, and they talk about all these ways that they can get something from somebody. And I wanted to yell, why don't we start with you showing up to work on time? How about we fix that? Mm-hmm. How about we take the young, single, childless person who is in their 20s, who is capable of being adult, who doesn't have any dependents, who is able to show up to work, and let's just get your ass out of bed on time.
Okay.
Like you're going through all this other rigmarole that's not even happening.
You highlighted behavior modifiers, right? Things that, you have a university that we make fun of on a regular basis that has departments dedicated to understanding human behaviors and how to deal with it, right? Now, if you were to put money on whether these were real sciences that studied human behaviors and came to scientific data-driven conclusions versus ideological capture. So if I were like gay, lesbian, transgender, let's just study them as a whole. Do we get to decide that an abnormality, something that is away from the mean, something that is different, should we allow the sciences and the data to analyze the behaviors and say if it was a net positive, if the pursuit was a net positive, if it was a net detriment, if it added to society or not, and measure it truly out and how it affects things around it? Do you think those academics would be able to put their ideological captures and say, hey, being a transgender might be what you feel, but being as such a net just a net loser as far as everything that's going to do to you, let's modify the behavior so that we can curb those impulses and get you more in the standard? Or should we have expectations? So poor people, is it a characteristic that is worthy of being modified by studying data that sees what contributes to it? If gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, should we modify those behavior to try to move people from what they are right now to a more standardized version, a more conservative version, more traditional version of what is? If it's easier, if you're one way, a gay guy that behaves and programs himself to be normal, takes up a family and has kids, isn't a net benefit, depriving themselves of what they feel, where you're more feminine, that you have tendencies that align more with a gay individual than a straight individual. But those people who study social behaviors and modifiers and how it affects, if it were real, I could just tell you that, but I can't picture anybody on that hill being able to take the courage to say the real things and what the real consequences and costs are.
Yeah, anything that has factors that would be interesting to look at would be studied. But if it's a social issue,
but that's what they study.
Looked at differently.
So parenting is a social issue. We don't care how you parent your kids until it starts interacting with the rest of us. And if you're bad at it, we feel the effects of you not being a good parent, right? So the social effects is, how does someone become a bad parent? And then they can study it and say, I can profile and I can look to see what starting point that you have, and what's your percentage chance of also being a bad parent, and get to you early and teach you how to not being a bad parent. Just like the kids who haven't experienced bad parenting yet, and we know it's a high potential because they've got a lot of demonstrations by everybody in their environment. Well, they can, from the hill, identify that you're a high risk of being a bad participant and a bad parent and a bad producer and a victim and serving out a terrible life ahead of you. But they don't study that kind of stuff. They are more of the wokest. And so that's not even a science that's worth respecting.
John says Youngstown invests in private prisons and halfway houses.
That is the laziest mail-in that there is. Prevention versus dealing with the cancer. Would you rather not have the cancer, or would you have 5,000 ways of treating it?
Yeah, fund the ways to deal with the problem without funding prevention. Yeah,
we haven't done that, and it's a big problem.
He says, in my youth, kids would not behave were sent to boys' industrial schools.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you weren't good at participating, go work, and then you're not bored because it's hard work. And at least it's our analogy when AI takes over the world and there are no jobs. The only purpose for human beings is get on the treadmill. And when you're on that treadmill 8 hours a day, you don't have destructive time. You're creating energy. The treadmill is actually a energy producer. So as you're walking, you're making electricity for the machines that are doing everything else. And that's the only way that you can give back. We're going to have a lot of people in that whole don't really have a clue, don't have a skill that they can even add to anything. So either we leave you at home where you're going to destroy yourselves and probably other people, or put you on that damn treadmill so at least you're occupied and can't hurt other people. Are you going to be on the treadmill, or are you going to be doing something
significant? I want to do something.
Treadmill, Kelin.
I want to do something significant.
Okay. Start working on a skill that allows you to participate, or else you're going to be in your basement just...
Like what? I need a skill like bow staff skills, nunchuck skills.
Something.
This is Napoleon. Is that Napoleon Dynamite? Sweet skills.
Sweet skills.
In familiar with Mahoning County Children's Services foster replacement. Oh, I'm familiar.
Yeah.
You are right, Joe. Most poor people today in America are very happy dancing on TikTok and fighting on X.com.
Yeah, but you encourage that behavior by making it pleasant. And when the women came into in politics in the workforce, they are nurturers, so they wanted to take care of people. They don't want to see anybody suffering. But then they created the bait that recruits new people into that system. You can make that argument that nobody wants to be poor, and you might not have made the proclamation that that's what you're doing, but if all of your actions, like I don't want to be a drunk, but I put a bottle of whiskey in every room, and I made sure a glass was always clean, and I had it shipped to my house every day. You might not say that you want to be an alcoholic, but you did all the things that lead you directly to alcoholism. You increase the probability that you become an alcoholic.
Yeah, and I can relate, maybe not all the time in every situation, but I do have a little of that in me to want to jump to fix something. Like somebody has a problem, how can I fix it? Somebody is suffering, what can I do to help? Like I'm just going to do this and get you out of the problem. And it's okay if the person truly can receive that help and solve a problem. It was a temporary issue. Now they're out of it and they can go on being productive. But too many times it's been like, you're suffering, you're dealing with something, let me save you. And they go and they suffer and they do it again. And they do it again.
It's the same math, right?
Yeah.
So you either allow people to experience suffering and frictions for a little bit drawn over a long period of time, same amount of suffering, just stretched out so it's more tolerable, right? So if your kid skateboarded and didn't wear knee pads, right? And it fell down. You said wear knee pads. They didn't wear knee pads, and they got scuffed up. The mom instinct would be, let me heal my little kid up and, put bandages on it and put some creams that make you not feel it, right? Now, is that pain worthwhile to teach the consequence and make a direct connection of how not to get the scrape? Or do you just want to make it feel better? So then your kids are like, I'm not going to wear knee pads. If I get hurt, she got this magic cream that makes me feel nothing. I'm going to keep doing it. So if you didn't allow the pain and the suffering to change the behaviors by making it easy, you indirectly encourage the behaviors to continue, period.
Yeah. And I'm seeing that a lot of things, whether it's like a forgotten assignment or a mishap or something with school, like I just want to be like, let me do this real quick for you then. Let me help you real quick. And then it's like, no, you got to go and face this.
Face it, experience it. But it's sort of like, I'll teach you something here today. All right.
Okay.
There is natural consequences to things that you should experience. But just like my friend Brandon starting to be filleted, there's a point where it's just suffering without anything more to be learned, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to have no consequences and no suffering in it. And you don't want a disproportional amount of consequences and suffering. There is a place right in the middle where you should stay. And I don't think human nature, especially parenting, gives us a real good calibration for where that is. Enough to teach the lesson without too much that it creates trauma and, nothing to be gained or learned by it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. The one person that comes to my mind when I think like, wow, of all the things to then turn around and be a jerk to me, it comes to a point where it's like you said, I could dominate, I could own, I could say all the things, but it's so clear that they don't need to be said. It would just be cruel. It would just be cruel. Like anybody would look at this situation or this dynamic and be like, oh my God, you don't even have a leg to stand on. Like we could point out 100 things that show what an idiot you are. But it's so obvious that you almost have to then show the mercy and be like, you go ahead and spout off. It's too cruel for me to throw
mercy, because that's going to be important in what the definition of mercy is. So you're already poor, right? Mm-hmm. Yesterday you had your housing paid for, you got a check that pays bare minimum for things, and you could eat a candy bar, and you could take that candy bar and have true enjoyment and cope with everything you get to experience. And then big bad conservative comes along and says, nope, no Milky Way for you. Right. Mm-hmm. And you're like, that was my only real sense of enjoyment. Is mercy saying, I don't want you to even be in this position. Let me help you not experience it. Or is mercy, just give her the candy bar. She gets very little enjoyment as it is. Which one is it?
I don't know if there's mercy in that situation.
What would be
to
mercy?
me, the mercy would be, this is all my enjoyment, supposedly. I ate the candy bar. Now I'm sicker, and I still help you.
Okay. So it's mercy. Not pure mercy either way.
Yeah.
Mercy meaning that you hit some natural consequences. You're already in this position. You're serving time on something that you might have done 10 years ago. Me making you experience that more brutally than you already experienced. That doesn't feel like mercy. Yeah. And then giving you what you want to cope through it as a part of another sickness, that doesn't feel like mercy either. So I don't think mercy is part of this. And I think because society failed those people so much, everyone from politicians to clergy to neighbors to family, all of those failed so incredibly bad, right? You are paying the consequences of listening to dumb people your whole life. Like, it's not your fault, but it is your fault. At the same time,
it's almost like you'll see their actions, you'll hear their spewing, you'll bear their attacks, and it's like deep down, but they don't have anything. It's almost like a sympathy, maybe. Like, this is all you got, and while there are definitely days and moods where I'm like, oh, I want to just give it back. Let me go ahead and humble you. Let me tell you exactly what it is. Then it's like, but I don't have to tell you. That's why you're miserable. But
the snapshot is you're already in the peril, right? Mm-hmm. And the engineers are going to say, well, let's pull you out of the peril and give you a start over here, not encouraging it. And if taking your example of the 8-year-old kid who has not made those mistakes, they might have some influences, but they're not, they still have time to be able to recover. That would be going back in time saying, Kelin, don't take that. In 25 years from now, you're going to be begging to have that student loan forgiven because you just can't afford it. Don't do that right now. It's salvageable. But once you have the student loan, you've already made that mistake. You're already there. So it feels like I'm being mean by saying something you're saddled with something that you can't change. Empathy would be me giving you reprieve from a mistake you made before, only coupled with you not doing the same thing with the next generation, because that would be saying, all right, I know what happens 25 years ago. Am I going to make that mistake from John so that 25 years from now we can be having the same conversation? That's the disconnect right now.
Yeah.
If we figured out how to end poverty today and make no more impoverished people, that would be one thing, but we're creating more today than we did ever have.
Yeah. Franklin says, I have advanced college degrees, but I'm directing my younger kids into become plumbers.
Yep.
Yeah, I keep hearing like trades is where it's at as far as making
But
money
it's a
and
timing
stuff.
thing too.
Yeah.
Because if you see this, so there's a doubling that happens over time. And there's this Moore's law in technology that every year the magnitude doubles in throughput. So we had this 50-year time period where things were doubling, but the innovations were small, so those doublings weren't more noticeable. And as time goes on, those doublings increase because we're talking about exponents, and exponents grow very quickly. And so where you used to say, hey, I'm going to get into engineering because I can see 4 years from now there's going to be a bunch of engineers. And then you could actually go through schooling that takes 8 years to get there, and that job would still be there because time was moving slower than it is right now. Right now, you might have two reversals in the time that you're in schooling with what is beneficial. So by the time the plumbers come out, like right now, trades are really hot because everybody went into technologies pursuits and professional specializations, and those jobs got commoditized because we made too many of them. And now what we didn't do is now we have a deficit in trades. And then we're like, oh, I'm going to make some trades. But by the time you create that trade, we might have then righted it again. And it might be back to innovations in technology. So figuring, and it's going to be really hard for parents. Like I was telling even 5 years ago, get into programming. Programming is where it's at. These software applications where it's at. You know how dead wrong I was? Because right now, anybody can create a programming. Every programmer that's put years into figuring out how to program, a computer does it right now, and you don't even know anything about it or very little about it.
I mean, if you had to tell a kid today what to get into, is there anything you could be certain will be lucrative?
No.
I can't even imagine.
I think every 5 years we're going to recycle through. Every 6 years.
Yeah.
6 months we're going to cycle through the next hot thing.
My daughter's having these deep discussions about what she might want to do as an adult, and she's 12. And she'll be like, oh, I kind of want to go do this, or I want to get a degree in this, or I want to get a certificate in this. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, what would you do with that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we always say like, well, why? What do you plan on doing then? And it might even sound like a good idea, but how many years from now when you're actually in the field, is that still going to be a good idea? Who knows?
I want you to, did you ever do the doubling a penny game in school?
Oh yeah. Would you rather have like a penny doubled every day or like $1 million?
That's the exponential game. Think of the 1900s, you were at a penny. And so as it doubled, you're like, I got 2 cents. I'm not really impressed. And through 30 doublings, what do you get to? Like $30 million, right? Yeah. But in the short term, when you're like, oh, I only got 2 cents, I got 4 cents, I got 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 256, and so on, right? Now you're up to $10 after like 15 moves. It feels like you're going to have nothing until you hit right now on the exponential table, and you're like 1 million to 2 million, 2 to 4 million. Then it starts growing big leaps.
Yeah.
1 penny to 1 million in less than 20 moves. But that first period ended in the 90s. But then
what happens if all of a sudden now you get a point where they're like, we're not making pennies anymore?
It was an illustration.
I know, but you don't think that happens in real life as to look at the benefits of this and how this is far more beneficial if you see it in the long run. The
same thing's happening just faster. And before you realize it, it's already changed 5 times. We'll get to a point where we're changing in an hour. A new industry is being birthed every hour. That is mind-blowing hitting that speed, but that's where we're headed towards.
I know. Like I remember when I when I chose my major and I decided to go into communications, there was a field that I had interest in that I wanted to be in. But I also thought to myself, if that field for whatever reason doesn't work out, it's a broad enough degree that I feel I could sort of still be well-rounded. I'd say it worked out for me. I've done a lot of things with it, although I've done a lot of things and never needed it. So yeah, it's kind of like seeing how can you best set yourself up with the broadest array of advantages and skills.
AI.
Sure, when AI is everywhere.
Let's take schooling, the next iteration of education. Okay, so let's just say what I suggested earlier in the show, that AI profiles you, knows where you're at, looks at your biometrics, totally profiles who you are, what you know, what you could know, right? Mm-hmm. Now, when you watch a football game, we'll say you DVR it, right? You record a football game, and you tell the DVR that you just want to watch the plays. You want to skip the commercials, the huddles, the timeouts, everything that's not necessary in that. How in a 4-hour football game, how quickly can you get through that 4 hours if you just watch the plays? 45 minutes?
Probably.
Okay, so we'll use that as our standard, where there's probably 75% fluff in everything that we do.
That's always been my biggest gripe when my husband's watching football and I'm like, why can't I get into football? Because it's like 10 seconds of play, 5 minutes of BS.
Okay, so we'll say 25% actual action, 75% fluff.
Yeah.
So when you go to school and you learn stuff, if you were to then say anything that didn't result in any kind of new information being added, we're going to fast forward that and we're just going to key in on the things that gave you the potential to learn something. How much fluff is in a school day? 8-hour day, how much is fluff?
I don't know. Depends, I feel like.
We're talking about specializations of what you want to do. So I'm not talking about anything that does not produce a skill, a usable skill in what's going to happen next. I'm going to use my same number and say you get about 2 hours of real instruction, real learning something. And I think that is on the high end. I think there are people that don't get 5 minutes worth of new education every time they go. So that's anywhere from 5 minutes to 2 hours is probably where education is. So as AI looks through this and said, there's too much inefficiency in education. So I'm going to teach you, but I'm not going to teach you for a 2-hour segment. You don't learn well at 2 hours. I'm going to do 15 minutes, but I'm going to basically suggest it to you, learning, and you won't even know that you had education that day. And as long as you get better than you would at the 8-hour investment, like what if we went to AI education, your kids had a tablet, it would talk to them every once in a while and throw some nuggets in their head about developing in certain specializations. What if that kid was 90% smarter than the person that invested 8 hours of their day? Would you say that's the proper method?
Maybe.
What if a kid wasn't taught any specialization skills until they knew what they were going to do? What if it was all foundational and you got it in 2 years at 15 minutes a day, 200 days a year? And you were, by 5th grade, better off than a high school graduate and ready to start building your specialization, and it can do it in the same time frame that you did primary and secondary education. Would it be better? What would you cut out? What's your loss now? So what's involved? Your kid, a tablet, interacting with it, and you become 90% smarter, or 90, get it done 90% quicker than everybody else.
Yeah. It's funny you would mention the 15-minute thing. I did learn in a college class once, they were saying if you are studying for something or trying to learn something,
this isn't for you.
No, it can't be too long of a session.
Yeah.
Your brain will remember the first 15 minutes and the last of whatever you were just spending all this time on. So when you sit down and you're doing something for your 4 hours with your minions, you may only, whatever you did when you started and whatever you were wrapping up when you ended will be fresher in your mind than the other time.
Well, interest in a 5 or 6 year old, you can study that and see what real primitive learning looks like. Okay. Mm-hmm. So number one, they never watch the full video or read the full instructions or know what they're getting. What do? They play.
Yeah.
Right. They experiment. and they're feeding their interest in discovery and curiosities. So our schooling does the opposite, where it's like, I don't bring any of your personal feelings into this. Listen to what I'm saying, do what I'm telling you, conform to my methods, and I'm going to make a good laborer out of you that can be on the assembly line and just follow all the instructions of people that talk to you. Cooperation is what you discover when you're building a fort and somebody else wants to play with you, and you have to figure out how to make it so they don't destroy your shit and find out if there's somebody worthy to be playing in your sandbox. We know all of this stuff, but as adults, we think we're so sophisticated, right? We know better, and we invent the worst ways of making ourselves better.
Do you ever go to play a new board game with people? Would you rather say, all right, can we just play and I'll catch on, than sit there and listen to somebody read 100%. The directions?
I don't listen to it. I just watch.
I bet you the majority of people are that way.
We're taught that, though. The way that you learn is through lecture.
Yeah, like give me a quick synopsis and then let's do whatever. And then show me around. Let's do it. I'll catch on. Maybe the first round I'm going to be a little lost, but then I'll get it and I'll say, "Oh, I see it now. Okay, let's play."
Yeah,
I feel like everybody would rather do that.
Broken into us to take what our true talents are and just squashes it to conform.
I've even found, like, even when it comes to technology, I've never felt that I was great with technology, but if there's a program I have to learn, I almost want to be like, is there a safe mode that I can just play and not break anything? Let me do that. Like, give me some guidelines, walk me through it, and then can I do it? Like, let me see what happens.
But then we take kids who struggle to not do their natural things. They call them that they have ADHD, but they really have ADFU. Right? Kids can figure out things that they're interested in and want to learn, rather than saying, "Hey, or here's this thing I want you to learn. You better get it." And then they're like, "I have to," but you're just subordinating something.
I've even gone to purposely learn something that I wanted to learn, but had like a person talking in a video. And I'm like, oh my God, like, keep my eyes open. I am so bored. I cannot focus. And I want to learn this. It's almost like we gotta change this up.
My brain's backwards. So I have to go do something that I'm not really good at. And then so I figure out the parts I want to know, and then I learn the parts that I don't know. So if I were interested in lasers, right, it wouldn't be I go learn all about lasers. No, I'm going to light some shit on fire and cut some stuff with a laser, knowing nothing about it, play with it. And I'm like, I wonder how that lens works and how the power works.
I should have done that in college. I took a couple psychology classes thinking this is going to be super interesting because I want to hear about the disorders. I want to hear about schizophrenia and psychosis and all these other things. Well, long before you even touch that, you got to learn about the parts of the brain and what things are called and the science of how it works. Or maybe, like you said, it could be like, can I hear something cool and then explain to me why that is?
Yes. And here's the thing.
Rather than the boring route.
Your masters will think you're not going to sacrifice into the textbook. You're going to get all fixated on the cool stuff, and you're going to learn what I had to learn when I was your age. Right? That's that cycle.
Because I get the whole let's make it make sense and get you there, but oh God,
as a parent,
it can be boring.
You see the danger in that with the same calculator example. Right? We know the technology is going to fill in any blind spot, and anything that you don't know, it's going to fill in those gaps. But the real valuable part that human beings bring into the equations are the risks that you take and the curiosities that you pursue. Like, it used to be, if I wanted to work on my car, I had to bring in a neighbor and tell me everything that I didn't know, or read the manual. I forget, what are those books called? The car repair books?
Like an owner's manual.
But no, they were actually repair books. They had a name. They were a branded name. But anyway, but now I'm like, I got to go do something I've never done. I bring up a YouTube video, watch 5 minutes of the part, because I searched exactly the part that I didn't have to learn about the alternator. I'm like, all I need to do is X, and it tells me in a 5-minute segment. I go replicate what I saw, and I'm like, I just fixed the thing, and I grunt and I spit, and it's amazing.
Yes, like I'll pull up YouTube or the internet and I'll learn something, and I'll be like, I did it.
100%.
I learned.
Hey, the ceiling fan's not working. Should I call in a repair person, or should I get the ladder? I'm getting the ladder because I want to see if I can fix it. All these fixes, and listen, it doesn't always go great. Sometimes the fan spins, the light spins instead of the blades. Sometimes you do that, and it's funny, and it's a good experience where you learn even through failure.
Yeah. I was like, we might be out of time. I don't want us to run over.
Oh, we did run out of time. Son of a bitch.
Are we not on anymore?
What we are. BJ usually cuts us off.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we got to get going, everybody.
time.
We went minute over.
That's all right.
Let me read these lines.
Extra
We're already
show.
over. Who cares? Chuck says, hey,
I
awesome.
don't know
Got a
if
few
you
minutes to
wanna-
burn in my favorite talk show. Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah.
Well, looks like
I
y'all are
probably don't
having a
wanna
good
read that.
time. Quick scan. No dirtbags. No.
I'll say, I don't know if you want to waste time on that.
Okay. All right. Have a good one, guys. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our